It's Saturday morning, I'm Steve, and this is your Saturday morning TV revival for the generation who remember getting up at the crack of dawn to catch cartoons, serial adverts, and the thrill of animated adventures before the rest of the world woke up. On today's show, we'll be diving into the Player's Handbook for another bit by bit, testing your knowledge with the game of knowledge, and jumping back into retro gaming reviews. We've got hit and miss, my best and worst of the week. What's in the box brings us another Elite Trainer box. And Book Club brings us the final part of the Baratai arc. But before all of that, we're kicking things off with Hobby Hangout. Let's see what we achieved last week and set our goals for next week. So let's head straight over to the hobby bench. Welcome to Hobby Hangout, the part of the show where we celebrate our wins from last week and set some goals for the next. So what did you achieve last week? Maybe you finally got 8 hours of sleep a night. Maybe you had to sacrifice your hobby time to help a friend in need and that became your achievement. Or maybe you just had a week from hell and got through it as unscathed as possible. Whatever it was, you should be proud of it. Life gets busy, it moves fast, and finding time to unwind is harder than it sounds. So what was your hobby goal for last week and did you achieve it? Let me know in the comments. My goal for last week was to paint these 2 drop pods for my Warhammer 40,000 army. I didn't finish them for a few reasons and I've definitely learned from that. I underestimated how long it takes to paint any Warhammer model. I thought these are just a whole lot of silver. They will be fine. It wasn't. They weren't any quicker to paint than normal models, especially once I decided to put hazard stripes all over them. I was also away with work for a couple of days up in Edinburgh, which shortened my week. Then Friday, which I'd set aside entirely for painting, turned into a family emergency and I was out all day. What I did get done though, I'm really pleased with. I used the airbrush to layer the silver, getting a nice gradient from warm metal to bright polished highlights. I don't regret the hazard stripes either. They look mint. When both pods are done, they're gonna look mega on the battlefield. So I'm chuffed with how they are coming along. What did I learn? First, I probably set myself too big of a goal. And it's easy to look at an unbuilt Warhammer model and think, yeah, that will be quick. But there are no quick steps in Warhammer, only false memories of quick steps. Secondly, I should have just painted 1 drop pod. Batch painting sounds efficient, but it delays that satisfaction of finishing a model. And honestly, it's more boring. Finally, I learned that some things are just out of my control. As much as I plan my hobby time, life happens. Don't fight it. Don't get mad at the people who need you. The models, they will still be there next week, but the people who needed you this week. I'm proud that I was there for them. So now I'm sat here with 2 half-finished drop pods, which brings us neatly to setting our next hobby goals. Before we get on to next week's hobby goals, I think it's time to shout out some of your achievements from last week's comments. Anna Banana Town painted and went to stretch class. I'm assuming those were separate times, but I'm secretly hoping they weren't. Optimus Phil promised he wouldn't buy any more Games Workshop models until he actually paints something. I think you might have just set yourself an impossible goal there, mate, but let me know how that goes. And Hassel and Sons, I think you had my favourite goal, arranging a get-together with your mates. It's easy to think of hobby goals as solo projects, but making time for others absolutely counts. It's one of the hardest goals as well because you've got to choreograph it with loads of other people. I hope that went well. Leave your hobby goals and achievements in the comments and I'll read out some favourites next week. I got loads last week, so I couldn't read them all, but I'll find a better way to share more soon because Every achievement deserves a shout out in my eyes. Right, back to the hobby bench for the next part of Hobby Hangout. Let's set our hobby goals for next week. What do you want to achieve? Let me know in the comments. Maybe you want to finally finish that book you've been currently reading since 2022. Maybe it's time to clear out that mysterious bag of cables you've been hoarding since the early 2000s. Or maybe you just want to bake something that looks vaguely like the picture and not like a cryptid. Whatever it is, make sure you set aside the time, because finding space for yourself is important for both you and your well-being. For me, I've got something I am genuinely excited about. If you're into anything even remotely Warhammer related, you've probably heard of the Age of Painttober competition from TikTok. It's run by the Travelling Man, and for 20 quid, you get 4 random paints, some basing bits, and a random Games Workshop model. You can add black and white, but that is it. You are allowed to kitbash the model, but it has to stay the main focus, and your basing bits have to appear somewhere on the finished mini. So, what did I get? Well, I got Geek Gaming Scenic Patchy Plains Basing Mix, which I never normally use because I like building my own, but this actually looks pretty great. My paints are from the Army Painter Leafy Green, AK Light Brown, Citadel Corn Red, and Vallejo Stonewall Grey. The grey's a bit redundant since I can already mix one, but maybe that will push me to be more creative. And my model is an Age of Sigmar Chaos Warrior, and I'm buzzing to do something weird with it. This week, my goal is to just build it, but I'm going to kitbash the hell out of it. It's something new, something creative, and a nice break from painting endless Space Marines. And if you've got a few different hobbies like I do, remember, you can't do them all at once. Keep things balanced, keep them fun, and if something starts to feel like a chore, put it aside for a bit. Hobbies should relax you, not add pressure. I'll be back next week for more Hobby Hangout so we can catch up on everybody's goals and wins. But for now, let's step away from the hobby bench and crack open the Player's Handbook for some Dungeons and Dragons. Welcome to Bit by Bit, the part of the show where we break something down bit by bit. This week, we're diving back into the Dungeons and Dragons rules to get you playing as quickly as possible without any of the stress. If you're following along in the Player's Handbook, we're on page 15, talking about actions. In Dungeons and Dragons, actions are all the things your character can do alongside moving and talking. You pick actions depending on what you want your character to do, and choosing the right one in the right moment is all about reading the situation and having fun. There are different types of actions. We have attack for when you want to try and hit a monster or an enemy. Dash, which lets you run really fast and move extra distance. Disengage, which helps you move away from enemies without them hitting you. Dodge, which makes it harder for enemies to hit you. Help, which is when you assist a friend, making it easier for them to do something. Hide, when you try and be sneaky and not be seen. Influence, which is when you try to persuade, charm, or train someone to do something. Magic, which is when you use your spells or magic items. Ready, when you prepare yourself for something that may or may not happen later. Search, when you look carefully for something. Study, when you examine something closely. And utilize, when you use a non-magical item or tool. You can use these freely while exploring, but in combat, things become a bit more structured and you'll need to pick one per turn. Depending on your character, you might unlock more, but these 12 are the basic everybody can use. There's a bit more to actions, which I'll cover in next week's Bit by Bit. Let me know in the comments if there's a Dungeons and Dragons rule you'd like me to break down next. Now go forth and start actioning. But let's move on from the make-believe and test your knowledge like it's 1984. It's time to play the game of knowledge. Welcome to the most outdated quiz on the internet. This is the game of knowledge, a trivia quiz where every question is taken from the 1984 edition of the game of knowledge. What's the probability we'll get outdated facts or controversial characters cropping up? Pretty high, I'd say. The rules are simple. There are 2 rounds, 6 questions per round. The first round is general knowledge. The second round is speciality topics. You'll get 1 point for every correct answer unless I say otherwise. The questions come from both the kids section and the adult section, but I'm not going to tell you which is which because honestly, some of them are equally difficult. I'll read through each question twice and make a note of your answers with pen and paper because it's 1984 and that is how we do it. Once we've gone through the questions, I'll read out the answers and I want the answers that are written on these cards. I don't care if you argue with me over the facts. I don't care if the facts have changed over time. I want the answers that were written in 1984. And that's all there is to it. Let's start with round 1, general knowledge. Question 1. What is the back part of a boat called? What is the back part of a boat called? Question 2. Who is the Duke of Rothesay? Who is the Duke of Rothesay? Question 3. Do pineapples come from pine trees? Do pineapples come from pine trees? Question 4. What is Alice Springs? Question 4. What is Alice Springs? Question 5. What does BT stand for? What does BT stand for? Question 6. Is US President George Bush a Republican or a Democrat? Is US President George Bush a Republican or a Democrat? And now onto our speciality round. Question 1 from storybooks and fairy tales. Where had Pussycat been? Where had Pussycat been? You can have a bonus point if you can tell me what she did there. Question 2 is from Heroes and Villains. Who is the patron saint of lost things? Christopher, Anthony, or James? Who is the patron saint of lost things? Christopher, Anthony, or James? Question 3 from cartoons and television. Can you name Scooby-Doo's nephew? Can you name Scooby-Doo's nephew? Question 4 is from games and sports. Which football team was involved in the Munich air disaster of 1958? Which sports team was involved in the Munich air disaster of 1958? Question 5 from animals. What kind of animal is a black widow? What kind of animal is a black widow? And question 6 from words and language. Which word begins with S means the same as eyeglasses? Which word beginning with S means the same as eyeglasses? Those are your questions. How do you think you did? Easy? Hard? Did any of them stump you? Well, let's go through the answers and find out. So round 1, the back part of a boat is called the stern. Question 2, the Duke of Rothesay at the time was Prince Charles. Question 3, do pineapples come from the pine tree? No. No, they do not. Question 4, Alice Springs is a town in the centre of Australia. Question 5, BT stands for British Telecom. And question 6, US President George Bush was a Republican in 1984. And round 2, Pussycat had been to London, and for the bonus point, she had been to visit the Queen. Question 2, the patron saint of lost things is Anthony. Question 3, Scooby-Doo's nephew is Scrappy-Doo. Question 4. The football team involved in the Munich air disaster of 1958 was Manchester United. Question 5. A black widow is a spider. And question 6. The word beginning with S that means the same as eyeglasses is spectacles. A possible total of 13 points. Be honest, how did you do? Which questions tripped you up? I think there were some tough ones in there. How was I ever meant to know that Alice Springs was a town in the centre of Australia? But that's it for the game of knowledge today. It'll be back soon enough to test your 40-year-old trivia skills. But for now, let's jump forward in time to only 20 years ago and talk about the PlayStation 2. The spotlight is back and once again shining on the 2002 August edition of the official PlayStation 2 magazine. This week, we're looking at not one, but 2 reviews. The magazine covered 2 tennis games that hit the shelves almost side by side. Slam Tennis from Infogrames and Next Generation Tennis from Wanadu. On the surface, they looked pretty similar. Both promising realistic courts, tournament play, and a shot at becoming the next Tim Henman. But when the scores came in, one game was a clear winner, and the other barely made it past the first round. The magazine gave Slam Tennis a solid 7 out of 10, praising its fast pace, fun atmosphere, and inventive extras. They said it immerses you in the rhythm of serve and volley with intuitive controls that made each rally feel rewarding. Even the crowd reactions added energy, giving matches that proper TV broadcast vibe. Meanwhile, Next Generation Tennis only managed a 4 out of 10. Despite having official players and venues, it was called a bloody racket with weak AI, clunky movement and dull presentation. Player animations were stiff and the courts felt lifeless. Both games tried to capture the Virtua Tennis magic that set the standard a few years earlier, but only Slam Tennis got it right. Its challenge mode offered wild mini-events like collapsing columns and bubble bursting bonanzas, mixing arcade-style play with simulation realism. Next Generation Tennis had a career mode, but it felt empty with basic tutorials and repetitive play. Even visually, Slam Tennis had more charm with detailed courts and live replays, while Next Generation Tennis looked okay. In the end, the 2002 PS2 Tennis Showdown wasn't much of a contest. Slam Tennis served up a confident winner, while Next Generation Tennis double faulted its way out early. Let me know in the comments what your favourite tennis game was on any console. I'm not into watching tennis, but I remember spending hours playing tennis games and thoroughly enjoying them. There was something addictive and competitive about them, whether you were a fan of the sport or not. But that's it for Bats and Balls this week. Now it's time to find out what was the best and worst of my week. Welcome to Hit and Miss, the part of the show where I tell you about 2 things. One was the best of my week and one was the worst. And you've got to guess in the comments which one is which before I reveal it. This week, we're back with comic books. In front of me, I have FML issue 6 from Dark Horse Comics and Murder Podcast issue 1 from Ignition Press. I'll give you my 60-second reviews while you start your guesses in the comments. We'll begin with FML. FML has been a miss of the week for me on a few previous occasions, and I've said before that if it doesn't improve, I'm cancelling my subscription. Issue 6 feels very different than what we've had before, and it seems like a lot of the ideas have been simplified. Gone are the endless panels of metaphors that felt like watching a David Lynch film made for teenagers. Gone are the many of the quirky mechanics the creators use to tell the story, things like doodles, mixed art styles and visual shifts to show moments in time. We still get some flashbacks, mostly of Riley's mum, but the story itself is pretty linear. We find out how Riley's mum and her friendship group met when they were younger, and we see them in the present day trying to piece together this murder mystery like the internet sleuths they are. There are a couple of side stories, equally straightforward, one involving Riley and his dad reporting the body they found in the previous issue, where they bumble their way through trying to do the right thing and end up making life worse for everybody involved. The use of colour is great in this issue. There are a few panels where flashbacks cross over with the present day, but the pink filter used in all the flashback panels make it clear when we're seeing those residual memories bleed into the current timeline. The fact that Riley is still a big hairy monster hasn't been explained or cleared up. I don't know if he really is one or if it's still just a metaphor for puberty. Either way, I've accepted it for what it is. There are definitely elements of this comic that remained unexplained, and I'd love to know the writer's original ideas behind those concepts. So that's FML issue 6. What do you think? Does that sound any good to you? Before we get into Murder Podcast, I need your help. Getting into comics can be daunting for new readers, and I know I've been there myself. Let me know in the comments what comics you would recommend for new readers. Maybe they are your favourites, great jumping on points, or entirely new releases. Last week, Bethy Nay gave their recommendations. Jed McKay's run of Moon Knight, which is one that has not been on my radar. The Walking Dead, which I totally agree with. Start from the beginning, it is one of my favourites. And Invincible, which I've been aware of but never read. I'm not sure where to start, so tell me in the comments, should I go back to issue 1 and start with trade paperbacks? If you want your recommendations read in a future episode, drop them in the comments and help more people get into the wondrous world of comics. Now, back to hit and miss. It's Murder Podcast time. And now we've got Murder Podcast issue 1. I was incredibly excited about this one. It's from the same people who brought us The Beauty. And I give The Beauty 2 awards in my head. One for having possibly the greatest first arc in comic book history, and another for being the comic that fell off the hardest after that. For me, it possibly became the most mediocre thing around. The first thing I'll point out is that I love the artwork in Murder Podcast. It's noticeable from the very first page. I think Mike Tisserand has a great way of taking that familiar, comfortable comic book style and putting his own twist on it. The first 7 pages are incredibly cool. The comic's about a new episode of a true crime podcast appearing in people's feeds. And when they listen to it, they go into a murderous rage. The opening pages shows one of those rages, and it feels like the start of a 2000s horror film where you always get that first death scene, something that throws you straight in, sets the tone, and tells you exactly what you're dealing with. Then we meet our protagonists, a group of 5 true crime enthusiasts who love talking about their favourite series and trying to solve the killings. The comic introduces all 5 at once, which is a lot to take in, but the writer gets around it by giving each one a quick profile. I don't love that approach because it pulls you out of the story, but it does mean we get everything we need to know in half a page. Without it, it might have taken 2 or 3 issues to properly meet everybody. So I'm okay with it if it keeps the rest of the story moving. In the middle, we get long conversations between the friends to flesh out their group dynamic and personalities. And then we hit the setup for the main story. One of them decides that she wants to make a podcast about the murders that are happening. And we end on a very brutal scene with a strong cliffhanger that could go one of 2 ways. There's also a single page that gives us a bit of lore about the murderous podcast itself, an idea of what might be happening. And personally, I would have preferred it without that. I like when comics let us discover things alongside the characters, but I trust this author based on the Beauty's first arc, so I'm willing to see where it goes. This comic has been a great mix of brutal artwork and warm, cutesy friendship moments. It doesn't stick to one emotional tone, which keeps things interesting. So, 2 comics this week, FML and the Murder Podcast. One was the best thing I read and one was the worst. Did you drop your guesses in the comments? Well, FML fixed a lot of the problems I'd had with it before. Up until now, it was convoluted and tried to do too much. But this issue simplified things and pushed the story in the direction I hoped for. And that makes it my hit of the week, which means Murder Podcast is my miss of the week. There are cool elements here, and the concept could go somewhere great, but there's a big chunk in the middle where not a lot really happens. It's only the first and last few pages that really stand out. With the space that was there, I would have preferred it if the writer had introduced the characters naturally through the story. So did you guess right? And have you read either of these comics? And what did you think? Let me know your thoughts on the Beauty as well in the comments, especially if you've read beyond that first incredible arc. That's it for Hit and Miss this week. But before we leave the world of comics entirely, let's have a quick chinwag about comic storage. I see a lot of people reading digital or trade paperbacks because they don't have the room for single issues, which is totally fair. But if you like the idea of collecting singles, here are some suggestions for what you can do with your comics once you've read them. The most common approach is bags and boards, kept in storage boxes. Bags stop dust and other nasties, boards keep the comics flat and rigid, and the boxes protect them from sunlight. You can buy bags and boards for all the different comic sizes, and some boxes are stackable or even work as drawers, which makes life easier. Another option is to just pile them on a shelf, like books. These are your comics, so do what you like. Fans might judge you, but it's yours. You've paid for it. Cut the covers into artwork, put them on your coffee table, or even by the loo for a quick flick through. The most extreme suggestion I've ever heard is to read them and then bin them. Mind-blowing. But again, your comics, your choice. If you don't want them though, donating them to a charity shop is better. They'll make somebody's day. You can also sell them. Try eBay or see if your local comic shop buys in bulk. And the better the condition, the higher the price. Grading them like trading cards can make them even more valuable and fun to display. And finally, there are frames. They are an option, though many look basic. I would love to find frames that open easily, protect the comic, and look great on my wall. So if you know any, let me know in the comments. So there you have it. Singles can be fun to collect, read, and display. But if trade paperbacks or digital comics are your thing, that is fine by me. I'm a singles boy though. Right, it's time to play with shiny cardboard. Welcome to What's in the Box, the part of the show where we find out what's in the box. This week, I have the Paradox Rift Elite Trainer box in front of me. So I guess it's less about what's in the box and more about what's inside the packets inside the box. For anybody who doesn't know Pokemon, let me tell you what this is while I get it open. Pokemon are shiny bits of cardboard that grown adults like to collect because they remind them of a better time when they were young. Most cards are worth nothing, but some rare cards are worth a lot, which makes it a bit like grey area gambling. There's been a surge of people getting into Pokemon cards recently, making them very hard to find and making those rare cards worth even more. Across the board, your Pokemon cards are probably worth more sealed than they ever would be open. But where is the fun in that? Right. In an Elite Trainer box, we have a sleeve, booklet that shows you the cards in the set. This pretty little box which you can use to store your cards. We then get counters for playing the game. A promo card. Code card. Pack of energy cards. Sleeves for organising your cards. Sleeves. I meant dividers. These are the sleeves. The dividers are for organising your cards. Your sleeves are for protecting the cards. Dice for playing the game. And then the bit we all care about. 9 packets of cards. Should we get them open? Paradox Rift has some great cards that I don't actually own. I would love the Dottler. I would like any of the food-based Pokemon. So the Vanillish would be great. The Minior, whatever it's called. There's a cool looking card. Ideally though, we are just after anything that looks pretty, and I think that to me counts as pretty. I'll take that as a win. That is a cool card. 1 pack open, 1 pull. You really don't get that many pulls in Pokemon. I seem to remember as a kid you would get rare cards all the time. It just doesn't seem to happen these days. So we're really after anything where the artwork covers the full card. I'm not saying the artwork isn't cool on some of the other cards, but you're looking for that over that. That's what we're doing. 2 packs down, 1 pull, 50% success rate. Let's see what else we get. Dweeble, he's got a cool card in one of the sets. I think it might be Journey Together. Loudred has got a very cool artwork card in this set. If I pulled that, I'd be incredibly happy. I think I have like 4 copies of that, which is a bit bonkers. Garbodor, I like Garbodor. I don't know why. I like all the weird Pokemon. Anything that looks remotely normal. I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want that little bird Pokemon. Apart from a P-Dove, I think a P-Dove is weirdly nice just because pigeons are a little bit rubbish when it comes to the bird family. And there's something quite nice about there being a Pokemon based off of a pigeon. Nothing again. Still only 1 pull. We started incredibly strong. I'm also slightly nervous about using a scalpel to open packets of cards. Like, I'm going to damage the cards, but just make getting into the packs a hell of a lot easier. What are we on? Pack 5 out of 9. This pile is growing in front of me. That Blitzel has pretty cool artwork. All the cards tell you the artist that drew them. So it's always nice to see artist names, and if you'd spot a few cards that you like and then you look them up, you're like, oh, these are all by the same artist. Maybe it's that artist that I like. We've got a couple of VXs. A lot of people count these as hits, these EX cards. I feel like that's just trying to make yourself feel better about the bad pull rates. To me, they are just pretty much normal cards. When you look at a Pokemon card in the bottom corner, every card is numbered and it will say, for example, 78 out of 182. Anything that is one of the pretty looking cards, the number will be above that total number because it's like a bonus card. It's like a special card. So if it's a numbered card and it's within that set, so there's an example. There, this EX, it's 135 of 182. If it's part of the number series, I don't count it as a hit. It's just a rarer card. It's not the rare cards. I want the good stuff. I want the really good stuff to come out the pack. So I'm only really counting this so far as 1 hit for the box. Tatsugiri has a good card in one of the sets. I can't remember which set it's in. Maybe it's this set. I don't think so, though. I think it might be Stellar Crown. You've got to open it the right way around. We can't do it upside down. It feels like we're asking for bad luck. So far, one hit. This box will have retailed at about 45 quid. I can't remember exactly what I paid for it. Probably that. 40 is probably the best price I ever got. I've had this sat on my shelf for a while. So if you're wondering how I got it so cheap, probably bought it back in January. One pack left. People often talk about last pack magic or first pass luck. I don't believe in that superstitious stuff. The packs are all randomly packed. The pull rates are what the pull rates are. There is no such thing as first pack magic or last pack luck. Dropped a card, don't know what it was. It's not one of the specials. The specials will all be at the back. One card. I don't know how much this is worth, but I'm probably going to suggest a few quid. So, like I said at the beginning, Pokemon cards are generally worth more sealed than they are opened. And I think I just proved myself correct. There are some lovely cards in this set, though. I didn't pull any of them, but there are some lovely, lovely cards. I'll probably take that to a card show and just trade it in for something I actually want at some point. So that's what was in the box. Not all Elite Trainer boxes are built the same, though. If you buy one from the official Pokemon Center website, you get an exclusive Pokemon Center promo card, which is always worth more, along with 2 additional packs of cards. Do I regret opening this? Not at all. It was fun, and fun is what I am here to have. And while we're talking about trading cards, let's have a quickie. Let me try and stop you wasting money. Pokemon cards are expensive, around £5 for a single pack, and there's a good chance you won't get anything worth that. So before you start collecting, think about what you actually enjoy. If you love the thrill of opening packs, sealed packs or Elite Trainer boxes are your thing. If you're more into the artwork or collecting specific cards, use websites like Card Market or visit trading card stores and shows to find exactly what you want. For me, I like the thrill, but I can't afford hundreds of packs chasing a single card. So I buy an Elite Trainer box for each set, and then I pick up any must-have cards separately. Treat yourself occasionally, but don't get caught up in chasing everything. It gets expensive and stressful. Focus on the part of collecting that brings you the most joy. All right, so let's move on from pretty pictures on cardboards to pretty words on a page. It's time for Book Club. Welcome to the Book Club, the part of the show where we discuss the books we've read and what we thought about them. This isn't just a chance for me to talk at you about the books I've read. It's our chance to explore all the books we've read down in the comments. So let me know what books you've read this week, what you thought about them, and what you're planning to read next. If I like what I hear, maybe I'll go out and buy it and read it myself. Before I jump into this week's book club, I do want to call out some comments from a couple of weeks ago. I said that Terry Pratchett's Pyramids just wasn't for me, and I got a lot of comments telling me that Guards is possibly the best Terry Pratchett book, or that Vimes is the best Pratchett character from that series. I just wanted to say, I've heard you, I've listened, and the moment I finish the novel I'm currently reading on my bedside table, I'm moving on to Guards to find out what the fuss is all about. But this week, I've been reading One Piece again, because I find it incredibly relaxing and it seems to go from strength to strength the more I've read. I've been reading it by arcs, not volumes, so this review covers the final part of the Baratai arc, chapters 60 to 68. The humour in these chapters is brilliant. Take Don Craig's crew, for example, saying things like, we'll kill him, we'll kill him to death. It's not only hilarious, it perfectly captures how one-track minded and completely stupid some pirates are. Then there's Luffy, consistently belligerent about being king of the pirates. There can only be one, and in his head, it is him. It's funny because it exposes the insecurities of every other pirate who acts tough, but clearly intimidated by his confidence. These chapters also give a deeper look at character growth. Luffy gets injured for the first time, which is huge. Will this humble him? Or will it make him want to get stronger through learning? Or will he just stay as reckless as ever? Right now, he's naive about his limits. Meanwhile, Sanji's inner thoughts show he's aware of his own flaws, which makes him stronger in subtle ways than other pirates. Oda uses panels to show pirates' internal thoughts versus what they say out loud, giving a rare glimpse of their self-worth. Visually, Oda's style is phenomenal. He uses unconventional angles and perspectives that make fights feel dynamic and intense. Some of the panels have that stereotypical anime style I'm aware of, but I haven't seen it in One Piece before, and it feels like Oda is reminding us that the manga is about to go full manga mode. Speaking of intensity, the brutality here is insane. The comical art can mask these chapters, but they feature mass murder, biological weaponry, and genuinely bloody fight scenes. It's heavy stuff, and you feel the stakes. Even without Nami and Usopp, the story feels full, the background characters are lively, the action moves fast, and there are moments when you genuinely don't know how Luffy and the crew will pull it off. Emotionally, these chapters hit hard. Luffy's belligerence, the stakes of the battle, and Sanji's backstory all come together, and for the first time since starting One Piece, it really took me through every emotion. There are a few quirks too, like Luffy's weird hypocrisy about recruiting crew members. He insists on people joining his crew, but when somebody else suggests it, he says they need to make their own choices. Still, these chapters are a mix of humour, brutality, and character work, and I'm loving every second of it. So if you are a One Piece fan, let me know in the comments what your favourite arcs are. But no spoilers, please. I am enjoying this way too much to have anything ruined. That brings us to the end of book club and to the end of the show. And now the end is near. We face the final curtain. The end of the show is upon us. Thank you for watching, and forward this video to anybody you know who loves Saturday morning TV as much as we do. Let's make the Saturday morning TV revival the best it can be. A new episode goes live at 9:30 AM every Saturday morning here on YouTube, and the highlights are shared all week on TikTok and Instagram. So make sure you follow to see a new episode as soon as they go live. I'll be back next week for more Hobby Hangout, more Bit by Bit, more book club, and all your other favourite moments. Share and like this video with everybody you know. And remember, I've been Steve, and it's Saturday morning, baby.